PCS timeline breakdown, everything you need to know from 90 days out all the way up to a week out before your PCS. If you're about to PCS, this video will walk you through it step by step exactly what to do to make your move as smooth as possible. So stay towards the end because we're going to have some juicy info all the way up to the end. Hey everyone, my name is Emilio and I've been active duty Air Force for almost a decade now. And the purpose of this channel is to give you every bit of information that you and your family need to make your move as smooth as possible. Because I've been there. I've been moving across the country, across the globe, and I know what it's like to have all your questions unanswered, to be in the dark about so many things. So that's what the purpose of this channel is. I want to hear from you too. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, reach out to me. My phone number is 520-820-1948. Shoot me a message here or anywhere else on my socials also. I'm also a real estate agent here out in Tucson, Arizona, and I help families just like you get connected with real estate agents to where you're going to at your next base. So if you're in the market to buy a home at your next duty station, reach out to me and I can get you a vetted agent that knows how to work with military folks, that knows the VA system, get the help that you and your family need. So reach out to me with my phone number, or there's also a link down below that you can click. Tell me where you're going, where you're coming from, and I'll get you that vetted real estate agent. Part 1, 90 days out. Check your report no later than date. Obviously, that's going to be a very specific date that you're going to have, and you're going to plan all of your actions and your appointments based off of that date. So your first step is going to make sure that you notify everyone if they already don't know. So your chain of command is most likely already going to know. Make sure that your supervisors are tracking and that your family is tracking also. I know I've heard of horror stories who've active duty members that leave their families in the dark, so please don't do that. They should have as much input on this as you, because this is a great time for not only you to start doing your research at your next base and unit, but your family or your spouse to actually do that information too. I know they obviously can't take care of all the administrative stuff that comes with processing at your unit and your base, but they can definitely start helping out with getting connections out to your next base, knowing what it's like, and just having an overall better feel before you even get there. And a couple of these topics that you and your spouse might want to look at is, how's the schooling at your next base? Am I going to live on or off base? How is my unit? Next, this is a great time to start booking your appointments, everything that you need, because you're going to have to book all your appointments for housing, your medical, your pets, and even school. And it's easy for some of this stuff to start slipping by, so start booking them now. And especially if you're going to overseas or coming from overseas, there have been plenty of times, for example, where my wife and she had to get actual medical dental work done because, for example, at the place we were going to, we weren't necessarily going to have that specific help at that base. So it was much better to take care of it and get it done now before we leave to a completely different country. And it was also a requirement from the military. So they made us actually get all of that work done and before they greened us up to go PCS. And the next step, make sure you actually fit in some time to actually maybe spend time with some family or make a trip out of the PCS. I know PCS can be very hectic, moving all your stuff, picking up your life and moving somewhere else. But if you are able to and you can afford it, make sure you take some time to, make a pit stop, for example, at a specific state, or let's say you take some leave. And this last part is obviously optional, but if you're going to be living off base and you're going to be looking to buy a home, then now is a great time to start looking into areas, to actual realtors, and just the general vibe of the city, because you're going to want to pick that out. And my wife actually helped me out with this. We both started looking for realtors in the area here in Tucson, and we actually closed on our home before we even set foot in Tucson. So I know that might not be everyone's cup of tea and the route they might want to go with, because it can be nerve wracking, not seeing a home and spending $300,000-400,000 on it. But if it is the route that you are looking to take, because I know some people just like to have everything set up as much as they can before they get to their station, reach out to me. My phone number is 520-820-1948, or you can also fill out the Google Doc online, and that goes straight to me. And then I will connect you directly with an agent to your next base or duty station, and you'll be able to get all the help you need when it comes to your VA loan and someone that knows how to work with military members. And before we move on, this is a pro tip. Start a PCS binder or a folder. Trust me, there's going to be so many documents that you're going to have to scavenge through on top of your orders, all your medical stuff, your housing, and you're going to want to label all those documents because it can get super hectic very easily. All right, now we're 60 days out from your PCS. Now, step 1, if you haven't already done so, book your transportation. Now, if you're going to be doing a personally procured move or a DITY move, this is a great time to start planning all that stuff out. Everything from your rentals to where you're going to make your pit stops. But if you're not doing a DITY move and you're going to let the military move all your stuff for you, then this is a good time to also go into DPS / my move, and then you're actually going to submit a couple of documents in there and just put in some information about your move. This is going to be like a government website that you're going to put in your info, and you're going to tell them roughly how much you think all of your stuff weighs, where you're going to, where you're coming from. And then that's when an agent is going to reach out to you, and then they'll start helping you through the process of that as well. Start booking your dates for when your stuff is going to get all picked up, and any other questions that you may have. Your next step is to actually ensure that all of your reservations and lodgings are actually booked. Now, normally you're going to be able to get that help from this from your sponsor at your next base. And even that is can be a poop storm, honestly, because I've seen many cases where there isn't a sponsor that reaches out, and we've had to intervene and reach out to that unit. Not only make sure you do have a sponsor and that they communicating very well, they'll also be able to help you, maybe give you the numbers and even book your stuff. For example, you're lodging at your next base, your temporary lodging at your next base, tell you how much you're allotted for it, and then just ensure that you're good to go on that end. And if you do have a crappy sponsor, tell someone, tell your chain of command, tell your supervisors, because they're going to want to get involved. And if they don't do anything about it, then go up the chain, do something about it, because nothing irks me more than when airmen are just in the dark and they don't have anyone helping them at their next base. Your next step is to make sure that your finances are in order. First and foremost, check if you're going to be able to receive dislocation allowance. Now, I have a whole video about this, but this is going to be an allowance that you're going to receive just because of the fact that the military is moving you. This is money that you're going to keep also to just use throughout any of your expenses. Obviously, you're going to have random miscellaneous expenses that you're going to have to cover that are going to come out of your pocket. So what this allowance is to help you recoup those costs. And then also make sure that you're going to be able to cover the expenses that you're going to incur throughout the PCS. Now, you're obviously going to be able to put some of these purchases on your government travel card, but I recommend just making a personal budget and be proactive about all the expenses that you know or you think that are going to come your way. Now, I know some people like using a credit card, but I personally prefer clearing up one of my bank accounts and then putting a specific amount of money in that debit account, just so I have all the money that I'm anticipating to spend, and then also giving myself a little bit of buffer. And that way, I think I'm a little bit more frugal with that money as opposed to using a credit card. But obviously, it's your personal choice, and just do what works best for you. And your next step, if you haven't already done so, start working on your shipment of vehicles, or if you're going to be leaving them at your current base, or if you're going to be transporting some if you're coming overseas. Now, with this, you're going to have a couple of different options, especially this is particularly important if you're obviously going Oconus or Conus. But if you're leaving Conus, you're obviously going to have the option to leave your car in storage, which I personally don't recommend. Because at that point, it's just really a liability unless it's like a super vintage car that has a lot of emotional connection to you. If you do want to keep that car in storage, that's an entire process you're going to have to go through, because you're going to have to send that car off to a storage location, and then you're going to have a specific company look at and take care of your car while you're gone. Now, obviously, if you're coming from Oconus, this is a good time to start planning your shipment back to the States with the car that you have right now. Get some of that stuff worked on. If your car, has a leaky oil drip pan or some other significant leak, or is infested with mold, then you're gonna want to get that stuff cleared, because they most likely will not accept that car, and they're gonna want it to be in good shape before they ship it off, in a container. And another pro tip, I know we just talked about your move and getting that scheduled, but this is a great time to start purging things too. You don't realize how much crap you have until you start actually packing all your stuff. So this is a great time to start getting rid of things you need. If you have kiddos and they, have an abundance of freaking toys or whatever it may be, get rid of all that stuff. All right, now we're 30 days out. This is where you're really going to want your ducks in a row, just to make sure that the rest of the time goes smooth. Now, I know I've heard of them, and I'm sure you have too, but there have been some horror stories out there when it comes to moving companies coming and grabbing your stuff or packing up all your things. But you just want to be on top of that as well. Confirm your dates, your times, and the locations, all of that information with your moving company around this 30-day mark. Or if you're doing a Diddy/PPM move, make sure that all your dates and your lodging, your rental trucks are all good to go. Make sure that you still have the specific rental truck that you need. Make sure that you have your lodging at your current base, in transit, and at your next base still booked and good to go. And if you are letting the military move your part, make sure you separate your items into separate batches. So normally you're going to have a household goods pickup, which is going to be the bulk of your items. You're going to have a partial pickup, which is the items that you're more essential and that you're going to get a little bit sooner at your next base. And third, you're going to want to separate some items that you're actually physically taking with you, whether it's on the plane or in the car. And these are going to include things like some clothes, some work equipment that you may absolutely need, and your uniforms. Now, there's also going to be some informal things that you might want to book that aren't necessarily required, but super helpful. For example, you might want a cleaning company to come in, take care of your current rental before they actually come and look at your current place and then possibly deduct something just because it looked dirty. It's, let's say you have a friend that's going to be taking you to the airport. Start coordinating those things with that. Make sure you give them enough time and heads up. And then another pro tip that my wife and I have found super helpful is building a Google Calendar or an iPhone calendar and then sharing it with them. And then start booking all of your dates and everything on there just to make sure you guys are on the same page and both of you get notified once one of you guys puts a new event on there. And I know this is pretty nerdy, but my wife and I actually sit down every week and make sure that we kind of overlook the week that's coming up and just make sure, excuse me, just make sure that we don't have anything important that we're not going to miss and just highlighting all the items that are going to happen throughout the week as well. So this is just super helpful for us to stay on topic, not miss anything important, and just to honestly avoid some arguments because there have been times where she tells me, that she has an appointment and I completely forget. And then I just forgot to look at the calendar. So it's just super helpful to stay on the same page. All right, now we're 7 days out. We are down to the wire. Now, during these 7 days, this is really where most of your preparation is going to pay off. First, when it comes to your movers, they're going to come in. Obviously, if you're doing a military move, they're going to come in, they're going to look at your items, they're going to pack them, and they're going to send them off. Now, again, we've heard some horror stories. And I don't want to necessarily tell you to just be on them and hound them, but make sure you have some supervision over them. Write down the serial numbers of any essential items that you have. So, for example, if you have high value items like GoPros, TVs, gaming sets, things like that, I would personally write the serial numbers of those items, keep a spreadsheet of them, make sure you account for those things. Take pictures of those items too. Open that stuff and put it in a Google Drive folder. Now, this is what I've personally done. And then you just have all that information central to that because let's say, for example, something happens to those items, you have your evidence, not the evidence that they have, and you're relying on them to give you. But when it comes to the actual day, obviously stay out of their way. Don't get in the way of them packing your items and wrapping everything up. But again, just supervise them. Make sure that they're not dinging anything up. Make sure that they aren't being chaotic or they aren't packing the wrong things also, because I've seen that before. So just have a general supervision, and then also request some help if you need some. Let's say have a friend over and make sure that they're keeping an eye on the movers in the next room or whatever it may be. And then they're also going to give you plenty of documents to sign. They're going to give you receipts of everything that they've packed and any high value items, and then also the specifics of those items to make sure the descriptions are correct, the quantities, the things that they're packing, the things that they're not packing. And you're obviously going to have to sign for that, but don't sign anything if you don't understand what it is. Ask them questions. If they don't know the answer, make sure they call someone before you sign anything, because their job is to obviously get all this stuff loaded and packed up for you. But you're going to be the one dealing with any of this stuff if there's anything damaged, any issues with down the line once you come to unpack at your next base. Next, make sure that your house and your items are also deep cleaned, because I've heard some horror stories with that. I've heard of rental companies taking entire deposits, and I'm sure you have too, because, for example, let's say they had pets in the apartment or whatever it may be, and all the carpets stained now. Now, obviously, this isn't a guarantee. Just because you go in and get a professional cleaner to do all that stuff, you're going to have all your deposit back. And this is just going to be a little bit of proactive effort that you're going to want to increase the chances of you getting most, if not all, of your deposit back. And before you ship off, make sure you have copies of every document that you will need. Make sure you have copies of your orders, your medical records, your pet clearance if you're going overseas, or medical clearance, and also any documents when it comes to housing. All right, guys, that is all I have for you. If you take anything from this video, it is really that I just want you to be proactive about all these things and plan ahead, because I've seen so many times where, and I've done it before, we dropped the ball on stuff, appointments, out processing checklists, because there's so many things to do. But just be proactive about these things, get ahead of them, be the one pinging the agencies or the individuals that you need. At the end of the day, it's your PCS, and no one's going to care about it more than you and your family. So who cares if you're annoying, if you're calling an agency that you need a signature from? And it's a lot easier to take care of things ahead of time than rushing at the last minute when everything is starting to pile up. Now, again, my name is Emilio. My phone number is 520-820-1948. If you have questions with any of this stuff, or if you have any feedback, reach out to me. I want to hear from you guys. I want to know if this stuff is being helpful to you guys. Also, if you're looking to buy at your next base, reach out to me and I can definitely connect you with a vetted agent that knows how to help military folks just like you and that knows the VA system. So if you're looking to buy at your next base, reach out to me. here's my phone number, or just reach out with that document below. Again, it goes straight to me. Give me the information of where you're going to, where you're coming from, and then I'll connect you with someone that you can trust.